Now, page 4, why there may never be a post-corona life in America. You see, this farce about this entire episode of the government overreaction to the Wuhan coronavirus, if Donald Trump wins in November, then we will never defeat the virus. That's because they are fighting him, not the bug. Coronaviruses have been with us for decades and decades, and unless there's some kind of scientific breakthrough in the very near future, the coronaviruses will outlive all of us. Odds are we will never, quote, defeat it. Therefore, for these blue state governors to come out and say they can't fully reopen their states until they, quote, defeat the Wuhan coronavirus is ludicrous. It's virtually impossible. All right, so what do we know to date about the Wuhan coronavirus that allows thinking Americans to affirm what we have sensed from the beginning? That is, the government response is a politically motivated, draconian over-response to a virus. Let's start with who is affected most. By far, the people who are most vulnerable are the elderly with underlying health conditions like lung disease. In other words, the young and the healthy are virtually immune to this virus. Yet, young people can come down with it, but largely children and young adults are not succumbing to the Wuhan coronavirus, and we know this. The mortality rate numbers are worthless. It is, in its infinite wisdom, the CDC encouraging doctors to label a death due to COVID-19, even if they are just guessing. What's more, they are declaring coronavirus death even if that victim had been suffering from a chronic and/or lethal prior disease. These COVID victims have compromised immune systems and could have easily died from the seasonal flu. So the death totals from the Wuhan coronavirus are being blown way out of proportion and are statistically garbage. They're garbage. And speaking of influenza, the recent antibody testing for COVID-19 produces a mortality rate that the blue state governors are simply choosing to ignore. This testing shows that somewhere around 20% of various population samples on both coasts has been exposed to the virus. What does this mean? Well, it proves that the virus has been with us in this country well before this overreaction by government. Also proves the mortality rate is no worse or lower than the seasonal flu, even if we use the doctored and inflated death by corona CDC numbers. So thinking Americans understand all this. However, from a purely political perspective, here's the reality. If President Trump wins re-election, then the virus is going to be with us a lot longer than if he loses. This entire government overreaction is led by a bunch of blue state Democrats who hold power over 1/3 or more of the population of this country. If President Trump loses in November, God forbid, then suddenly the virus won't be much of a problem anymore. The government response was, is, and will continue to be driven not by health concerns, but by a radical agenda of a radical political party that is consumed with a win-at-all-costs mentality. The damage from this government response has been severe. Much of it will be permanent, and it will be here to stay if the president is reelected, which is why there may never be a post-corona America. And Dr. Anthony Fauci is very much right in the middle, if not orchestrating this political dynamic.
I think the important thing to point out is that, as you well know, we live in a very big country that is certainly not a unidimensional country. It's very, very different, whether you're in a New York metropolitan area or Casper, Wyoming.
Stop tape. So if that's true, doctor, then why did we have the one-size-fits-all response to the Wuhan coronavirus? Why are you forcing healthy people to barricade themselves in their homes in Wyoming when there's virtually no shot, no chance of getting the Wuhan coronavirus? Why is it that certain counties in California have 0 cases of the Wuhan coronavirus, yet they are treated the same as if they were smack dab in the middle of New York City? We're so diverse. Yes, we are. And certain regions have been hit harder by the Wuhan coronavirus than other regions. And within those regions, certain subsets have been hit harder than the rest. New York City is an anomaly. Most of what has transpired in the United States has followed a pattern.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One American News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One American News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.